Hi, Pat.
Hi, Samina.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
Good. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me on the show. Win it with Samina. I like it. Own it with Samina. Sorry. Own it with Samina. I love it.
Yes. Um, Pat, you are one of my mentors, and I remember you being on stage with Gary, talking about your book, Six Steps to Seven Figures, and Gary asked you why you wrote this book, and you had said that I wanted to make an impact for all my mentees, which you did, and we still talk about it. We still talk about the good old days we had with the Pat Hiban real estate group, and you created that impact, and that is why you're here today. I wanted you to be one of my guests, not just as a friend, but as my mentor. What I learned from you over the years and where it's taken me through my real estate journey. So, thank you for accepting this invitation, and thank you for coming to my show.
Well, it's always great to hear that and look back and I know there were several people on our team, yourself included, that I look back on now that I'm outside of the real estate game, and it kind of makes me proud that we all were there together in the beginning, and I can be considered a mentor and considered a catalyst in how they go about their business today. I think that I wouldn't be able to appreciate that if I hadn't have quit and like stepped away from the business, so to speak.
Right.
Now can look at it on the outside. Especially living, most of the time in another area now, it does make me proud. So, but I don't think about it on a day-to-day basis. So it's important to keep in touch with you and the others that were on our team back then, because it does feel good. And I'm so glad that you're doing so well and that you're crushing it. I always knew you would, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Let's reflect back in your journey, Pat. What made you get into real estate? You were very young. How old were you when you started?
I was 21. I'm an October baby.
Yeah.
So I graduated college at 21, high school at 17. So I was 21, and I went into I had a degree in sociology, and I went into that field looking at possibilities as a probation officer or something of that manner. Nothing came to fruition. I quickly realized I needed to earn money. I was substitute teaching, and um, that paid enough, but to pay $50 a day, but it paid enough to pay the bills, but it didn't pay enough to live. So I did something that didn't have a barrier to entry, meaning that it wasn't too hard, and that is I got into real estate because it's easier to do. But as a matter of fact, it was kind of harder than it is now. I actually got turned down by Long and Foster, Merrill Lynch, and Century 21, because I was so young and because I was part-time in the sense that I was substitute teaching. There were Century 21 told me to my face, we do not hire part-timers or and or new agents. So it was very interesting. It was more of a field, kind of like the financial field is now, like the stock brokerage is now. Like if you graduated college and you wanted to go to Merrill Lynch, you couldn't, right? You have to go through this huge process, and they probably wouldn't pick you to be a simple beginning broker. It's kind of how it was back in the day. But nonetheless, I went into it and I found a company that only dealt with new and part-time agents. They were like the junkyard dog. They took anybody, and that was called Grempler Realty. And I put my license there, and lo and behold, I sold a couple of houses, and the rest is history. I was 21 years old.
Wow. Um, what made you decide to, grow a team?
So the team thing took probably 10 years before it manifested. And it's interesting. I saw a guy a little while ago from the real estate game from Maryland who I didn't know of. And he introduced himself and he said, "You're OG legit." And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "You're like old school legit, like one of the original players of Howard County, Maryland." And I said, I said, "Elaborate on that." And he said, "I heard you were the first person or first agent to start a team." And in his mind, I was the first person to start a team in the world, um, which isn't true, right? I mean, I copied everything that I did. Like I went to a Remax convention and I saw other people starting teams and went to different convention. There was a lot of people starting teams. I would say one of a couple that started teams in our market, Howard County market. Now everybody has a team. But yeah, we were pioneers. I would say I was one of a few pioneers, and I did it to free up more time personally because I was selling 5 houses a month, um, with nobody else helping me. Like not even like a paperwork person, not even you know, no secretarial, nothing, like no expense. I didn't have any expense. My expenses were whatever Remax was charging me. So that was it. So I started a team because I needed help. I needed help processing, needed help filing and following up and putting on lock boxes and taking photos. I did all that. So, that's why I started a team.
Right. Um, what stands out about building and mentoring a team for you?
Well, I think in my mind, what stands out most is how fun it was. I always felt teams have more fun. Um, I think we had a lot of fun. I know I had a lot of fun. I know I always looked forward to coming to the office. Um, when I was doing it by myself, it what I I got something out of it, right? Like it gave me fulfillment and it gave me a sense of hard work, which is important to feel, but um it wasn't fun necessarily. I didn't have any fun, right? Because I was all my only people I talked to were like other agents, and they were kind of competitors or just kind of getting in the way. They didn't offer me a benefit. So, like, uh, it, first couple of people, it, it was more like I enjoyed the growth of it, but as we grew to 20 plus people, it became just fun. You remember, we did tons of stuff that were just like laughable
In
fun every day.
having challenges and fun. I mean, that's what defines you as Pat Hiban, Pat, because I feel starting from the ads you did. I mean, let's talk about your ads. I mean, even the kids used to love your ads. They would mimic you. They would. I think if they saw you on the streets, they would like, "Hey, I'm Pat Hyman. Fire me!" They would mimic you for your ads, which is so rare nowadays. How many ads do you see based on real estate that you get to the kids generation also to love you for who you are, you know?
Yeah,
So
that was funny. I remember dropping Heather off for school one day, and one of her kids in the class that she was with asked me to sign an autograph.
yeah.
She was so embarrassed. Um, but yeah, I don't know why. Like to this day, like I really can't explain it. Somebody explain it to the approachability of it. And I think like in my life, um, there's certain things all of us have that are natural genius zones or natural superpowers, and I don't have a lot of them, but I have a few of them, and I think one of them is an approachability factor, a comfort level that's kind of that's natural. I think where a lot of people feel comfortable around me, and I don't. It's not a conscious thing. It's kind of like what color eyes do you have? You know what I mean? Like it's a DNA thing for me. So I can't explain why kids would like a boring commercial that happens to be about real estate, which they don't know anything about, but they did, and it was fun, and I loved it. Maybe they saw how much fun we had in the commercials, and to them that's fun. Kids like fun.
Exactly. That's what I feel reflected through in everything you did or we did as a team. The fun factor um, reflected through whatever we did as a team.
Yeah, yeah. I think we tried to
And
make it fun,
it
and
was a
the
healthy conversation. It was a healthy competition within the team. Also, we loved taking on the challenges that you put through, and you know each and every person looked forward to, okay, what's the next challenge? Okay, Pat, let's do this again. What's the next challenge? And we would do anything to win and make sure that we don't lose out on the competition, because the end goal was just that much fun.
you're right. It made us all better,
Yeah,
and at the same time, it made it fun. You know what I mean? It wasn't a and it was all natural. It was like, the accountability didn't need to be there because the accountability was in the fun race or whatever it was. Like if you're the last, then that's accountability in and of itself, just coming in last. Like is you notice that?
yeah. And I think the other thing that I see in teams nowadays, Pat, is lack of um, camaraderie between the marketing department and the agents. I mean, when we were in your team, like Shaz and they were all in the marketing department, but we would still mix and mingle together. Even though they were not agents, we would just do things together.
Yeah, we were all one. We really didn't separate it.
We didn't
It's
separate
just a team.
departments, we just did things together regardless of.
Well, that's what a team is, right? A team is a goalie and a defense and an offense and it's not just the scorers. It's not this. I don't really follow sports, but you know what I'm saying. But it's not just the people that score the goals. It's everybody. It's a whole team, and that's kind of why we included everyone.
Right, right. um Pat, let's talk about your book. You said that you wrote the book because you wanted to create a lot of mentees down the road who um, would appreciate from what you taught and go ahead. And it was, you said it like a monkey's link, that your mentees would then go ahead and teach that to their mentees. How do you feel today now that the book is out and it's been a few years? And I still remember, by the way, that I'm in page 35 of that book.
You do? I hadn't thought about that monkey link in a while. But what's Samina saying for the audience is, when you're those barrel of monkeys,
Yes.
barrel of monkeys is these plastic monkeys that hook onto each other's arms, and we have to think, oh yeah, you're gonna hook on to mentors' arms, but then you got to reach down and hook on the mentees' arms below you too. You got to be like a middle monkey, and yeah, it's very interesting because I think the natural way for that a lot of human beings are, myself included, is we don't really take in um, compliments and uh, I don't know what you want to call it, but um, it's hard to digest basically saying, oh, like I'm a mentor to somebody, or I help them succeed, because you don't want to sound cocky, and also they succeeded on their own. They're the one that walked out the door every morning, you know what I mean, and met a client. So um but I'm forced to think about it, obviously, when I talk to people like you. So I really should do a better job of keeping in touch with you and Mike Sloan and Eric Black and everybody. You know what I mean? And I see everybody on Facebook, and I'm so happy for everybody. Um, and I'm glad that I was able to have an impact. So I appreciate you bringing it up, because it is something that I don't really consciously think about, because it's egotistical to think about, I taught him everything he knows, you know what I mean? Or something like that, right? Like would
But
never say that.
I would say you should think of it like today our lives are better because we had leaders like you
Mm.
guide us. And Pat, I want my audience to know that not a single agent, I mean, whether they went to, like I went to the Bob Lucido team, there's some agents that went to the Northrop team. Every agent that came out of your team are top producers nowadays. Every agent you can think of. That is something to be really proud of.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And that's really cool, because you would think that some wouldn't at all, right? Like I mean, and there were some, but a lot. I mean, there's a good 5 to 10 of you guys out there that are killing it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, in different teams, but every one of us, wherever we are, we're all top producers in the teams. And I'm sure our current team leaders are, grateful for, making us leaders just like you were in the industry today. So I, I personally thank you for that. Uh, I did a I did a talk last week, Pat, in Miami. I spoke to 50 luxury agents, and I want you to know I had 4 pictures of mentors. You were the first one, and then there was Buffini, and then there's Bob, and then now there's Sirhant. So I said these are my 4 good-looking leaders who took me to where I am today, and because I want people to know that this is where my journey started, you know. And
Yeah, yeah, it's important. And the people that try, I think the people that try it without a mentor, or without following somebody, it's just such a harder path. That I know when I got into real estate, like I started searching for mentors right away. And I wouldn't be where I was if it weren't for, Irv Norgren, who I sat next to my first year, and Floyd Wickman, who, um, you know, had a course that I took 3 different times that taught me how to be a listing agent, and like
You even
none.
brought that course to us
Yeah,
for taking. And then I remember you sending me, Rosa, and all to San Diego for Bayer University, and then later on we went to Advanced Bayer University. So I mean, I think those were good foundations for us, that built a good foundation for us as an agent today.
I can't imagine, like, if I never learned from anybody else, and I didn't go to conventions, and I didn't go to look for mentors, I would still be doing it the old-fashioned way. And there's a lot of agents out there that's how they do it. They don't learn, they don't grow, and they sell the same amount of houses every year, work the same amount of hours every year. Nothing changes. You know what I mean? And I don't see how they do it. Like, I don't see any other way but trying to constantly improve and get better in some format.
Right. And you just with a mentorship program, I feel that you fast forward your success rapidly. You know, you just fast forward it with guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I probably skipped 10 years in my third year when I switched from being a buyer agent to a listing agent. And I would have never switched from a buyer agent to a list. I never, no one told me to. None of the office managers or other agents were telling me to do that, um, until
Mhm.
I started listening to Floyd Wickman, and he was like, listings are the name of the game. Forget about buyers. And as soon as I followed his advice, my income tripled. You know what I mean? And I was like, holy dirt, this is the way to do it. But I would have never caught that fever if it weren't for him telling me.
Yeah. Do you think what is the one core principle from your book that still rings true today, Pat?
Well, I think it ties into what we were just talking about, which is
Goals?
not only goals, but build on a success up. Step 5, which is build. It's like if you have a success with selling a house to a school teacher, you should try to sell a house to another school teacher and another school teacher and get referrals from other school teachers. And every time you meet a school teacher, you should say, I sold these school teachers' houses, and just build, build, build. And that's my company now, GoBundance. That's kind of how we've done it. Whenever we get a new member of GoBundance, we get referrals from them, or they organically give us referrals, and it just builds. We get one dentist, and then next thing you know, he tells another dentist, and next thing you know, we have 15 dentists, and then we create a micro tribe, a small tribe where all the dentists get together every month. And you're just building one success on top of another on top of another. Most agents just try to start fresh every day, without building on their successes. It's the classic agent way to grow. It's like, I just sold that house. I'm a neighborhood expert. Use me if you're thinking about selling. That's been around for 100 years.
Right.
But I don't think agents use it enough. I mean, I think you should use that in everything. You not only should use it in neighborhoods, you should use it in churches and communities and synagogues and mosques and you know PTAs and uh, HOAs and everything. Just
Right.
build, build, build.
Right. Um, but what is one of the hardest professional challenges you faced, and how did you push through it?
I think well, for me in real estate, I think looking back, two things. The first is losing business. whether it be losing a listing to a competitor, which I never had in the first place, but it still hurt really bad me. I took it personal. Like they like him more than me, like a little middle schooler, you know? Um, and then also having a listing and working on it for 6 months and then getting fired and them having to use somebody else was very difficult. You know, it was very emotionally stressful for me. I don't miss that one bit. Um, and I think getting through that to the next day remember we used to have that term FIDO,
Yeah.
forget it and drive on.
Yeah.
Forget it and drive on, Fido. It was hard to have that Fido spirit, but I think I did. And I kept reminding myself, Fido, forget it and drive on, forget it and drive on. Um, so that was one. And the second one was when, the market crashed. And you remember this was the 2007 or so where, everything worked in 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, everything worked, right? Every ad we did worked. Someone called. Every postcard we sent, we got a listing, right?
Yeah.
Like everything, you show somebody a house, they bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Everything worked. And then it went to suddenly nothing worked and the banks wouldn't loan any money to anybody. If you remember that 2008, they were like, oh, we're not loaning money. All these mortgage companies closed down. They couldn't get a loan.
That is exactly when I started my Buffini trip.
Yeah. Houses were upside down. You go to list a house and they paid 350 and it was worth 320. And you had to explain to them that and they didn't want to hear it yet. It hasn't the ripple effect didn't kick in for like 3 years. And I think that was one of the hardest things for me. We laid off 22 staff people. We were staff heavy at our team. I mean, the agents, you just had to keep them happy, which was hard to do because you had to provide, we were a lead company, so we had to provide leads and we couldn't provide leads because there weren't any leads. So, the agents were like, Pat, why don't you do a first time home buyer seminar? Or why don't you do more, of this or that? And it was very hard because you weren't making any money. So you didn't want to spend money. Um, but then at the same time, we had all the staff people and I laid off 22 people. You probably remember that in 1 year, I laid off 22 people and I had to lay them off. I mean, it wasn't like outsourcing that to like somebody else saying, hey, you got to fire this person. I was doing that myself. Very difficult.
Mhm.
And that was challenging. And then we were stuck in the lease till 2010 from 2007, where we had to rent out offices to outside vendors at half the price that we were paying. I would pay $1,000 a month for a little room and I'd rent it for 500 and then make up the difference out of my pocket. That was all, I would say, very challenging. Um, Looking back, it felt normal. It just felt like that was part of a process um, that we had to go through. Um, but you asked the question, you know what I mean? And so I would say those two things, the little ones one at a time, the little cuts here and there, and then the big one, which is when the market shifted. And luckily, once it came out of that, now I'm out of the business by, a couple of years after that. But for you, at least, you've been able to hang in there. Um, and you've had a good run from what, probably 16 to 20, 28 years, 8 or 9 years of a really good run. I hope it keeps up and you never have to experience that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that that's not true. I have a feeling the next couple of years for you, Samina, not you personally, but the real estate market is going to change. But maybe it won't because it's kind of crappy now, isn't it? Like, I mean, good but bad. Like good,
very peculiar market.
Good if you're a seller, but bad if you're an agent working buyers or an agent trying to get listings. So
Well,
different.
I just came back from family reunion today, this morning, and
Welcome home.
thank you. Gary's prediction is it's going to stay like this for another year or two before we can see the change in the market. And it's a peculiar market, Pat, because yes, there are sellers, but there are not enough sellers. There's a shortage of inventory, and because of the shortage of inventory, the prices keep going up because of the bidding wars. And it has reached to such a height now that buyers are like exhausted and they're just taking a break, you know? So all of a sudden, you are going to start seeing houses just staying a little longer. And buyers are being very picky right now, also at the same time.
What about investors? Are people still investing?
People are investing, yes. People are investing in, like at least my investors, I'm seeing them invest in the 400 to 500 price range. And um, because, now with the new prices, what used to be 200 to 300 is now 400 to 500. And with the buyers, what I'm seeing is I have buyers now that their comfort price range is 900 to 1.1 million, but the houses they really like is 1.2 to 1.5 million. So then I needed to see how do I strategize this and close the gap. And what I figured out was we have to bring back renovation loans.
Hmm.
Go down in price, pick the neighborhood you want, the school district that they like, the neighborhood
Yeah,
they
and renovate.
renovate it. The renovation loan will give you the money to purchase the property, renovate the property because the school districts are good and there's very much in demand. They will appreciate. I'll give you an example, Pat. I I had a buyer. Her price range was 1.6 million. This was in Potomac, and but her thing was, I need to be close to 495. And all the houses, if you see in Potomac, if you go inside, all the houses are inside, and by the time you come close to 495, 10-15 minutes is gone. So she needed to be right off of Falls Road. So what I did was exactly this. I said, let's get back to the drawing board. Let's re strategize this. We picked a house which is 72 built, completely gut renovated it. She bought it for 900. She spent 450 to renovate it. Took 5 months. You know what it appraised for? I mean, she spent 1,350,
2.1.
1,350 with the purchase and the renovation, right? It appraised for 1,650.
So I think that's a good idea because now more than ever before, people's minds are stretched to the process of renovation and the process of construction because of all the HGTV shows and all of that. Whereas even 10 years ago, that was a harder hurdle to jump over just mentally. But now it's not a big deal to keep doing that, to renovate or massively renovate like she did.
Right.
Not a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, yes, it is a hassle, but at the end of the day, they will get a price because, and if they wait thinking that the interest rates will go down, it's going to be a couple of years before the interest rates go down, and it's not going to go down dramatically because if you see the last 30-year uh, you know average, it hovers in the sixes, sixes and sevens. So
Right.
so it's not gonna, if they're thinking COVID uh, interest rates are coming back. Not in your lifetime.
Ever.
Pat.
Exactly. I agree. I agree. That's lucky.
Yeah.
And it's still low. I mean, it's still, I just locked in on the house that I'm in now, here at, 6.5%. And I'm very happy with that. And I could keep that for a long time. You know what I mean? I don't, doesn't scare me. My first house I ever bought, I was 10 and a half. And that was down from 11. So I was cool with that. That was just that. That was what it was. Like I didn't, it was like, you want to buy a house? I said, yes, I want to buy a house. I'm a real estate agent. I can't be a false prophet and rent a house. So I found a house and I bought it, and the rate was 10 and a half, and that was that. I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. I Gary said a great thing that I learned this time at the family reunion. Don't take time to buy real estate. Buy real estate and give it time.
Mm, yeah. Yep. I agree with that. I mean, everything goes, it's the same thing with the stock market, same thing with most investments. It's like, you know, it's not the timing, it's the time. And you just hold, you buy real estate and you hold it. The other issue too, like I got a bunch of rentals in Maryland still, and I could sell a bunch at peak prices now. And I think about it all the time. I think about it. Every time I get a new tenant, I'm like, damn, I should just paint the walls and sell it instead. But you have capital gains with that. You got to recapture all that depreciation. There's consequences to that. And is it better off just to keep sitting on it and, collect a couple coins every month in rent?
Yeah. Let's have some fun, Pat. All the challenges we used to do, which one
Mm.
was your favorite? Let me tell my audience first. We once
Yeah. What was yours?
Well, let me first tell my audience one time it was you had cicadas. If we sold a certain number of houses, that was a cicada season. And you had live cicadas, not even dead ones. You ate live cicadas. And then you did open house, 162 signs. That's crazy. And then we threw pie on your face. And last but not least, we shaved your head bald. So which one which one was most fun for you?
I The funny thing was, when they shaved the head bald, it was like bring your kid to work day, and my daughter started crying. And also, it was hard for me to grow back. It grew back white. I had blonde hair and it grew back white and gray. But to answer your question, I think the funnest one was probably the pie in the face one. We went to Janice Matson's house on the water, and I don't know how you guys got I don't know how you guys organized it. All I did was stand there and, like, I think I tied my hands
Drenched
behind
in
my
like
back.
whipped cream. We didn't even have pie. We had whipped cream. Pouring buckets of whipped cream on you.
I think I must have had 100 pies thrown in my face. And it was the ultimate in, like, self-deprecation. Like, I think I've always felt like I don't ever want to be like better than anybody else. I don't want to ever be snobby or um godlike or guru like, right? I don't want to be it's very uncomfortable for me. And so,
You want to
doing
be approachable, but at the same time, our leader, our friend, and
right,
our, our friend who we could approach and just talk to if we had issues.
right. Who could help you guys grow, and of course get you leads so you could sell houses and make money. So but that was kind of the ultimate in it of, hey, okay, so here's what happens. If you guys sell, 30 houses or 100 houses or whatever the number was this month or this quarter, you get to all throw the pie in my face. It's kind of like the dunk tank, where the kids at the school get to pay money and throw balls at the little thing, and the teacher and the principal get dunked in ice cold water if they hit the little thing on there, the dunk tank. I think it's kind of like that, right? It's like it puts you on the same level, and everybody loved it. Everybody loves it. And it, what did that cost? Like $100 or something in whipped cream canisters? Nothing. And then we all went to Janice's house and just hung out, and it was just like an event, and it was cheap. All our contests didn't cost anything. Like, didn't cost anything. They were free, right? Shaving my head, free. Eating a cicada, free. I remember the cicada one that I didn't think anyone was going to bring. And then I thought they were going to bring a dead one if they brought one, like, because they didn't want to catch it. And then all of a sudden, like 7 people brought live cicadas in jars with holes in the top so they could still breathe. Oh my God. And then Josh Moulton filmed it on a phone that wasn't even like it wasn't even a smartphone. And it's such a grainy video, but that was the beginning of it all, right? That's where it all started, and then it just kind of took off from there. So yeah, it was definitely fun times. I mean, that's my biggest memory. That was your first question you asked, is what adjective do I think of about those times? And the adjective is fun. I mean, it was so much fun.
So much fun. Well, thank you, Pat. Thank you for your time today. This was so much fun catching up with you. And if you're in town, definitely, let us know. Anita, Shelley, and all, we always say that, we should always do like a Pat Hiban team, like a recap party when you come, you know?
Yeah, I know we did it that one time, and unfortunately, actually I'm settling today on my last house in Maryland, but that I would live in, that I stayed in over the summer, last 10 summers. But now that my parents have both passed away and both of my kids have moved out of Maryland, I have less and less reason to come back. So, but I do have 10 to 15 investments there, some of which are very local. I'm invested in that. I don't know if you've been watching, but the Columbia Flyer building right across from Howard Community College is getting ready to be torn down, and that's a big project I'm involved in, and a couple other things. So I'll tell you what, Samina, when I come in to meet up or see any of these investments I have in Maryland, I will definitely reach out a month or so ahead of time, and we'll plan a reunion, because I do miss it, and even just sitting here with you makes me nostalgic, and I would love to get together with you guys.
Yeah, we want to recreate more memories with you.
Let's do it.
Okay. Thanks, Pat.
Nina, great talking to you as always. Best of
Thank,
luck,
thank
and have a good day.
thank you.